You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here with me today on this Toxic Thursday special edition of the Cabral Concept, where I want to go over one of those topics that we hardly ever talk about. And the reason that we never talk about is simply it is something that we look at that's invisible, and that is the air we breathe. But if you think about it, besides water, besides food, what is more important than the air that we breathe? And I think most of us, if we really stopped and thought about it, the air we breathe and the quality of it is of the utmost importance. The average person takes over 23,000 breaths per day. And the average person works inside for 90% of their day. And when we look at air quality tests of people's homes and often offices, we'll find that 95% of those homes have at least one health-based issue recorded with the indoor air quality. So if we begin to look at that from a health-based perspective, you can start to see that each one of us needs to do something to improve the air that we breathe for ourselves, for our coworkers, for our family, for our children, for our loved ones. Now, as always on the Cabral Concept, I want to make this to the point. I want to make this real world usable. I'm not here to scare you. Too many people are doing that in this day and age. It's inappropriate. It's unneeded. No need for the scare tactics, but we need to share with you the truth of what's really going on out there. So by the end of the show, I'm going to give you very simple plants, believe it or not, plants or other air filters that you can put in your home that will dramatically improve the quality of that air. That means it will cut down on all of the toxins that are invisible to your eyes, but are absolutely there and can be tested. One of those that I've spoken about in the past is mold. So if you tuned into that previous podcast on mold-based toxicity, I'll see that if I can find that for you. As always, I searched just like you over at stephencabral.com/podcast, and I just type in mold toxicity. And I wrote about the study in my book, and I wrote about it or talked about it on the podcast. But it was this, is that 52% of all UK households and United States have some type of mold in the air. So this is really important for us to look at because mold toxicity can cause a host of health-based issues. Now, indoor air pollutants in general that come from what are called VOCs, volatile organic compounds. Now remember, they might sound like it's organic, that it's good for you, but this just means that it's something organic, an organic compound from chemistry, and it's in the air. I'm going to go through those in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to share with you those podcasts on mold. So the first one is this. It is episode 993. There's no escaping these toxins. You can check that out. On 10/22, I go through the mold collection plate. Very simple at-home mold collection plate that you can do, or calling in a mold-based remediator. Let's see. On 10/48, I talk about how to overcome mold toxicity. I go through the mold-based protocol. And on 11/03, I go over how to follow a low mold diet. So I do hope that those podcasts help those people dealing with mold issues. You can always rewind the podcast, listen to those episodes, go back, play them. Feel free to do that. Now, what I want to talk about today, and the reason why today's show came about, is that it's been in the news lately. And so I like talking about things that are top of mind for a lot of people. And there was a new study that came out. It was called the NASA Clean Air Study. And it was led by the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. called NASA, if you didn't know what NASA stood for before. And it was done in association with the Landscape Contractors of America. So this was done on the International Space Station, I believe. The International Space Station. And what they did was they actually tested all of the toxins in what would be considered a 100 square meter space. Now, again, the space station is a little bit different, and here's why. The space station is an airtight environment. So that means it's almost its own little quarantined area. So that means that there's not a lot in, there's not a lot out. It's airtight. Now, of course, it has to be. So it's floating around there in the inner Earth orbit, I believe it's called. Probably not the easiest thing to say 10 times fast there. But what they did was they said, hey, is there something natural that we could bring into space that would allow us to clean that air? Now, it's actually easier, believe it or not, in space or in a quarantine-based environment, like a clean room. And the reason is that we don't have more coming in every day. Now, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't use it, but I want you to understand that. Now, they went through, I believe, I want to say like 14, 15 different plants, probably 20. I'm going to show you all of them today. I'm not going to go through every single one today, but I'm going to go through the best ones. Now, there are some best ones if you don't have a pet, and then there are some best ones if you have a pet, because there are some great ones, but they're toxic to dogs and cats. So I'm not going to give you those if you happen to have a dog like I do, my little French bulldog, or he's not so little, actually. He's pretty pretty built. And then for those people that have cats as well. Now, again, your dog or cat may not eat your plant, but just in case, they can be toxic. So no children should eat them, no babies should eat them, no dogs should eat them, no cats should eat them. So I'm going to go through those today, and I also want to share with you what else we use besides plants in my own home. Well, this has actually been done now over the past, it looks like 30 years. Yes, 30 years of research. So this is not an overnight study, becoming more and more popular, but I'm going to share them with you right now. So here are the different plants that help to remove toxins from the environment, and then I'll go over my top picks for you, because again, nobody needs to purchase every single one of them. All right, so let the fun begin, and I'm going to list these today. Head on over to StephenCabral.com/1322, StephenCabral.com/1322 for the different plant names, as well as the individual links to the top ones. Okay. So the first one was this, called English ivy. The second was a spider plant. The next one, peace lily. Then Chinese evergreen, bamboo palm. Keep that one in mind for a moment. The snake plant, the heartleaf philodendron, the Siloam philodendron, the elephant ear philodendron, red edge dracena. I don't know how to pronounce that. The cornstalk Dracena or Dracena. Someone should help me with my pronunciation on these. The weeping fig, the Barberton daisy, the Floris chrysanthemum, the aloe vera plant, the Janet Craig plant, and the Warnecki plant. The last one would be the banana plant. So I'm going to go through the top ones and why, because you don't need to keep every single one of these in your home. And I actually, believe it or not, I did a podcast way back in the day on this. Let me see if I can find it for you. And I'm just going to type in plants. I don't know what will pop up, how many shows, 15 shows, but believe it or not, I did do one right here, episode 385, the 3 best air filters and allergen removers. There you have it. Way back in the day, episode 385, I was talking about plants that can remove toxins from the air even before the NASA study became popular. Okay. So now let's go over, though, to the very popular NASA study and reveal what the absolute best ones can be that you can use in your home. And then, of course, I'm going to talk about air filters and salt lamps as well. So, okay, what do they look for mainly in the study? A couple things. Benzene. Why does this matter? Well, benzene's a really important one. Think about this. When you go to fill up your car with gas, if you don't have an electric car, you know that sweet smell that you get sometimes from the gasoline? Well, part of that is the benzene. That's why a lot of people actually like that smell of gasoline, because it has a sweet smell to it. But the truth is, it's quite toxic. And besides just gasoline, it actually comes from plastics, resins, which would be like glues, synthetic fibers from synthetic-based material, whether it's synthetic dressers or synthetic fibers on a couch, rubber lubricants, dyes, detergents, so cleaning products, drugs, and pesticides. So really important to keep in mind. That's a very popular and common one, which is why it was tested for. Formaldehydes. You might think, well, there's no formaldehyde in my house, but believe it or not, they put formaldehydes on a lot of fabrics. It kills bugs, it keeps pests away, etc. So formaldehydes are often on rugs, and they are quite often found on couches as well. Trichloroethylene. And trichloroethylene will add, well, I'll go over xylenes next, but we actually test for these, believe it or not, on a toxicity test. So if you're ever wondering, do I have trichloroethylenes and xylenes and all these things in my body, there's actually a toxicity test for that. We hardly ever talk about it, but it's a simple urine-based test, and one that I do recommend if you're able to, that many people should run this lab because it will show you how you are being exposed to these invisible toxins that are actually accumulated in your body, whether we'd like to believe it or not, which just shows people why it's so important to be detoxifying your body on a daily basis, and especially with those quarterly functional medicine detoxes. Okay, so the trichloroethylenes, the xylenes, the ammonias, a lot of these are used in cleaning-based products and solvents, and again, quite common in cleaning products in an industrial work-based space, and oftentimes cleaning products at home. So let's go through the top ones here for you, and I actually just shuffled my list. So let me see if I can move back on this. I can't, that's okay. I'm going to give you a nice little graph. I'm going to link this up for the NASA Clean Air Study and actually just show you step by step what the best ones are for you. Now, well, let's say you don't have a pet. Okay, so I want to go through the absolute best one if you do not have a cat, a dog, or little kids that are going to eat these plants, okay? There is one called the bamboo palm. If you've never heard about the bamboo palm, we'll try to link it up again at stephencabral.com/1322. Keep in mind, even if your local Lowe's, Home Depot, plant-based store does not have these, you can order these right online and grow them yourself. It will tell you whether it's high sun, low sun, high water, lower water, very, very easy. Remember, one thing with plants and gardening that I found myself is that most of these plants, they need less water than you would think. If the soil is wet, do not keep watering it. That's a big thing. I've killed many a plant learning these difficult things. Okay, so put it this way. The bamboo palm today is going to be my top pick out of all of them. And that's because this is actually non-toxic to animals and dogs and cats as well. Bamboo palm, number one pick. Okay, let's say, though, that you do not have a dog or a cat, okay? The peace lily. The peace lily did exceptionally well, one of the best. If you do not have a dog or a pet, it did a great job at cleaning out and taking out the benzenes. It took out the formaldehyde. It took out those trichloroethylene, invisible. Remember, these are invisible gases, basically, volatile organic compounds, VOCs. They're in fresh paint. When you paint your rooms, that's why you get a low VOC paint if you're ever painting your home or office again as well, because all of these things off gas, and they can be just as harmful as tobacco smoke or mold or mildew in your house or dust. All of these things do matter. Okay, bamboo palm, and then we have the peace lily. Now, what I'd like to do is just focus on a couple more for people that have dogs and cats, because I would prefer to go with products that can kind of be used across the board. All right, so there's one, and I'm going to get it for you right now, that, for one, I just have to say is this. Aloe vera is a great plant to have in your house. Some people consider it a succulent, some don't. Basically, aloe vera is a medicinal-based plant, and you can use it for burns and cuts and scrapes, and it's just great for skin-based rashes, all right? So aloe vera is a great one to have. It did great on benzenes. It did great on formaldehyde, not as great on the cleaning-based solvents, but a good one to have in your house nonetheless. All right, another great one to have is called the red-edged Dracaena. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's Dracaena. Dracaena, and that is the red-edged Dracana. We'll call it that. All right, just a couple more before I move on to the air filters as well. I wanted to bring you the next one, which is the Floris chrysanthemum. This one, toxic to dogs and cats, but it passed every one of the tests. So it was able to take out the benzenes. It was able to take out the solvents like the xylenes, and it was able to take out formaldehyde. Really nice one that's called Floris chrysanthemum. Again, I will link this up, and I will give you one more for today out of all of those, and that would be the Burton Daisy. This one is non-toxic to dogs and cats, and it passed everything with flying colors. It was the number one thing to take benzenes out of the air, and it did exceptionally well at taking out those trichloroethylenes from the cleaning-based products or solvents. With this one right here, it did not do as great a job with the xylenes, but it did fantastic with everything else. Okay, so my top pick across the board, though, let's say you can only choose one because, again, I want this to be actionable. I really do. That's what this is all about. Make it easy. Here's the deal. If you do not have a dog or cat, get the peace lily. If you have a dog or a cat, get the bamboo palm. It's that easy. That's how easy I want to make things for you. Bamboo palm, if you have small kids, if you have a dog, if you have a cat, if you don't have any of those, you can get yourself the peace lily. The peace lily took out everything across the board, and it was one of the only ones to take out everything, including ammonia. Ammonia was a very difficult one in the air to take out, but I'll tell you this. The Floris chrysanthemum did the same. Again, that's for people that do not have a dog or cat. The reason I want to name the Floris chrysanthemum is because a lot of people do not like the smell of that lily-based plant. All right, that's it. Super easy. But again, if you don't bring ammonia into your house, you're good to go. Now, if you're at work, trust me, they're probably using ammonia as a cleaning product. Keep one of these plants right on your desk. So at your office, instead of the bamboo palm, you can use that Floris chrysanthemum, or if you want, put the peace lily right on your desk. And for your knowledge, just if you're asking what we use, we actually use the variegated snake plant, also called the mother-in-law's tongue. It is toxic to cats and dogs. We keep it up on a shelf, a higher shelf, that only my wife basically waters. We do have those. We have the bamboo palm, and we have the Floris chrysanthemum, besides the aloe vera plants. Now, we have other ones as well, plants in our house, but they weren't shown in the study to be able to take out any of the, or they weren't actually tested to take out a lot of these toxic substances. But I can tell you, the more plants you have in your home, the more they're going to be able to absorb that carbon dioxide and actually give off oxygen, which is also nice. Now, let's say you're not a plant person, but you want to be able to clean up all the harmful toxins in your air. I did a show on this as well. I will give you my top pick from that. But as always, you can go to stevencabral.com/podcast and type in air filter. That's all you have to do. In the little search bar, stevencabral.com/podcast, type in air filter. You'll find 24 different results. Now, on episode, let's see if I can find it right here. 385, I believe I mentioned that previously. Episode 385, I went over some air filters. So I gave you all sorts of different price ranges. I talked about salt lamps, and then I talked about the air purifying plants, many of which we just spoke about today. Now, I did an updated show on this. This is about 2 years later. A new product got brought to my attention, one that they actually use in hospitals and is in partnership, I believe, with the National Lung Association. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's their partnership. And it's called the IQ Air. That is the most potent air filter that I've ever seen to date. It comes in multiple sizes. And if you are someone that is serious about taking out mold and pet dander and all sorts of toxins out of your air, check that out. Episode 1127. I believe it is the only air filter that's also not just for commercial use, that is used in safe rooms or clean rooms in hospitals. Check that out. That was episode 1127. And of course, this end of this year, I'll always put it on my updated holiday list. So that was episode 1127. If you want to know about the best air filters, I used to use the Allen air filter, ALLEN. It's a little smaller. And I currently use the new IQ Air. it is absolutely, it's a beast. When we leave the house, we crank it up. When we're back in the house, we turn it down to a 2 or 3 setting, and we just allow that to filter through the house. We'll often just move it from room to room for the house. If you have a larger house, of course, you can get multiple, but this is a very simple thing for us living in the city. All right, the last one I want to share with you are my favorite salt lamps. I love salt lamps. I've talked about them before. When we were a very, very small company, when Equilibrium Nutrition was just a twinkle of what it was or is today, I used to, believe it or not, we had just started out. We were giving away salt lamps one month. I know that seems completely insane. This is when we were shipping product out of my wellness center. And for the first 100 people that bought that month, we were actually shipping them salt lamps because it's one of my favorite things. We have salt lamp night lights for our girls' bathroom, and we have salt lamps in every single room, basically, in my house. So I think they're absolutely fantastic. The light bulb does heat up the salt. They've proven that. The discrepancy is there enough negative ions from the salt, not just the sodium chloride, but all of the different minerals in the actual Himalayan pink salt. So they are Himalayan pink salt lamps. I'll link those up today at stephencabral.com/1322. We'll link up the previous podcast there as well. So that's the question. Now, that still needs more research. I'm not going to sit here and say, with definitive proof that we know that large amounts of negative ions are giving off by that Himalayan sea salt. I'll tell you this. The red glow, the pink glow, helps reduce and calm those cortisol levels as opposed to having bright lights on, which you would need to then put on your blue blockers for. You don't need to do that with that Himalayan sea salt lamp as well. Really, really nice. Plus, it's dimmable. So we put it on as my girls are falling asleep. It's just a little bit of light. And then I go in their room, I shut that off for bedtime when it's time for bed. They're fantastic. They do have a beautiful, beautiful glow to them. And there is some truth to our negative ions given off from it because we know that that's what happens at the ocean. We know that's what happens in larger salt-based beds. To the degree, how much is it happening with the salt lamp in a larger room? That remains to be seen. I don't see any downside to having them. And they're very peaceful. They're very calming, which is fantastic as well. So hopefully today's podcast was helpful. I wanted to bring you the latest on the NASA Clean Air study and really break it down for you because there were about 20 different plants in that study. I gave you my top 3 right there. I hope that you use them wisely. I hope that you share them with friends, family, coworkers. As always, if this podcast was helpful, please do feel free to pass it along to anyone else you feel it could serve. Take care, everyone. Are you ready to heal yourself and then go on to heal others? If so, the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute can help you discover proven functional medicine protocols that blend the best of 7 different healing disciplines from around the world. I personally share with you the exact handouts and protocols I use in my private practice that enable people to get well, lose the weight, and live longer, stronger. I want to pass this information on to the next generation of health coaches, and that is exactly why I created IHP. We are the future of the health coaching industry, and the skills and knowledge you will learn will make you an in-demand certified health coach anywhere in the world. Although we have many medical professionals taking the IHP certifications, no experience is necessary, and half our members have no previous health certifications. At the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, our motto is a health coach in every home. Our goal is that you take this knowledge and then share it with family, friends, loved ones, your community, or in a practice where you create a career you love and can be proud of. The global IHP community is filled with some of the most kind and caring people in the world, and we can't wait to welcome you into our world soon. For more information or to set up a discovery call with one of our IHP Health Coach graduates, simply head over to integrativehealthpractitioner.org.